Let's start the show by talking about my sponsor, Paloma Verde, and their new website, palomaverdecbd.com. Head over to palomaverdecbd.com and check them out for all of your CBD needs. They've got the gummies, tinctures, salves. So if you're needing anything to maybe chill you out, something to help you get mellowed out, something for your joint pain and stiffness, go over to palomaverdecbd.com and give them a check out. Carlos and Vanessa are awesome people. They run a great company. And if you enter the promo code FACTS at checkout, you'll get 25% off your order. Plus, any order over $75, you get free shipping. So, I don't know what you're waiting for. Head over to palomaverdecbd.com and check them out. Let's start the show. This episode will be completely taken out of context. Welcome to the Fact Check This podcast. All right, Fact Check This podcast, and today I'm going to push the envelope just a little bit and test and see if YouTube is still banning everything COVID related. Everything COVID misinformation related. And let's also see if by bringing actual studies and articles along with me for this ride, they still choose to take my video down. So I've deliberately avoided talking about anything COVID for a while now, just because, number one, COVID's over. Let's be serious. The rest of the civilized world, other than the United States, has moved on to addressing COVID as a flu-like virus, that it is endemic, and that it should not be something that warrants a whole lot of our time and attention. The United States, on the other hand, continues to utilize it as a weapon of fear and mass propaganda because, the pharmaceutical industry that is treating this thing is based right here in the States. And as I've said before, probably on videos that have been taken down, if you aren't aware, the pharmaceutical lobby is hands down the biggest one in Washington, D.C. All the crazy deal that's made over the NRA and all these other supposedly conservative lobbies that are in everybody's pockets and actually controlling legislation across the country. No. Do a little bit of research. Just look at the raw numbers. It's the pharmaceutical industry. They're the ones who are pulling all the strings. So let's take a look at a couple little nuggets, if you will. Nugget number one, let's listen to what's-her-face, Deborah Birx, see what she has to say about COVID vaccines.
Take on a lot of people looking at the president now having this, and all these people who've been fully vaccinated and boosted and all that, and they're getting it. The 20% or so of Americans who've not been vaccinated might look at that doctor and say, well, why bother? Why bother? What do you tell them?
Well, if you're across the South and you're in the middle of this wave, what's going to save you right now is Paxlovid. But once we get through this wave, during that law, you should get vaccinated and boosted because we do believe it will protect you, particularly if you're over 70. I knew these vaccines were not going to protect against infection, and I think we overplayed the vaccines, and it made people then worry that it's not going to protect against severe disease and hospitalization. It will, but let's be very clear, 50% are vaccinated.
I want to get your take on a lot of people looking at the president.
I think that's pretty amusing. We knew that it wasn't going to protect against infection, but we ran with that narrative for months and months and months anyway. She also suggests that Paxlovid is the thing that you should be taking, the thing that's going to be our saving grace in this current surge or current wave or whatever you want to call it. That just flies straight in the face of and completely ignores the fact that Paxlovid has been found to be completely unreliable and effectively useless. Every There have been multiple cases. In fact, Dr. Fauci himself had this happen to him, where Paxlovid is taken in the early stages of COVID. What they have typically seen is for the first 3 to 5 days, symptoms subside and the patient seems to be getting better, only to turn around and get round 2 of COVID, which is exponentially worse and lasts about twice as long. So yeah, Paxlovid, that's going to be the thing that saves us from this current wave of COVID. Me and my unvaccinated wife both have been a part of this current COVID wave. If she could have kept her hands to herself, I would have gotten away with not even having her realize I was sick. Had a little bit of a sore throat, mild fever, just kind of general fatigue. I was working on mowing the yard and working in the garden, doing stuff outside. I was just kind of push through it and pretend that nothing was wrong. She laid down in bed next to me, put her hand on my chest and said, "Oh, you are burning up." I was like, "Yeah, I might." She had tested positive for it the week previous, and she was like, "But you need to go get tested." I was like, "Yeah, I know. I've probably got it." And she hands me this bottle of throat spray and says, "You're going to need this tomorrow. You're going to have a sore throat." I was like, I already went through that a few days ago. She said, "How long have you been sick?" It's like, I don't know, about 4 days or so. I made it 3-4 days without my wife, who I was literally at home with every single day, even realizing that I was sick. If she hadn't forced me to go get tested, I probably wouldn't have. I'd have just gone to work like all was normal and moved on with life. But I mean, that's how terrible this current wave is. In fact, let's see, the guys on the morning show, Dag and Mark, have both been hit with it. Dag, it was pretty mild for him. Seemed like he participated in the show. I mean, I never missed an episode of either of my shows while I had it. Mark's got it. He doesn't seem to be any worse for the wear. Like, it's been going around, and that seems to be kind of the current trend that I'm seeing amongst everybody that's getting this current strand of, it's the BA5 or whatever they're calling it, the more transmissible, less deadly, avoids the vaccines and avoids the treatments strand. You know, like all those other strands that have come through, they become less deadly, more transmissible, and they avoid the vaccine that's still based around the original strand. The vaccine has not changed. This is not a new vaccine. The boosters don't have any new science to them. It's still just another dose of the same thing that's not working. So, speaking of not working, let's pull up the next article that's bound to get me banned. Study ties COVID booster to a startling spike in excess deaths. A study based on the weekly government data in New Zealand, one of the world's most vaccinated nations, found that the age groups most likely to have COVID booster shots had up to 10% more excess deaths. Excess mortality is the number of deaths from all causes above what would typically be expected in 1 year. So what they're seeing, and this isn't just in New Zealand, this is kind of across the board, especially in Europe, is that the more heavily vaccinated age groups, which as it so happens are the 20s and 30s that are the kind of the least likely to actually need it, you're seeing excess deaths amongst those age groups. And you know what the excess deaths are coming from? Ding, 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 you guessed it. Myocarditis. Lots of heart failure. Lots of sudden, SADS has become a thing. Sudden adult death syndrome. These things don't exist. Like, young people just dropping dead for no apparent reason didn't exist prior to... Okay, let me back it up. Fact check myself. It's not that they didn't exist. And I even got fact checked on this. on a post on Facebook not too long ago. By the way, fuck Facebook, but whatever. Been serving some Facebook suspensions for posting jokes. Like, if you can't even post a joke, what's the point of having fucking Facebook? Anyway, some of the statistics on like myocarditis and the percentages that it's up. So in previous years prior to 2021, myocarditis amongst 12 to 24-year-olds was virtually non-existent. The numbers, I'm trying to remember exactly, it was like quadrupled or more in 2021 from normal years. And it's got fact-checked. It got fact-checked because it went from like double digits. I think prior to 2021, there was like 19 or low or high teens, low 20s was how many deaths per year in those younger, like 20, 30, 12 to 20, 25, I think it was, like 12 years old to 25 years old. Like upper teens to mid 20s was how many annual deaths were happening due to myocarditis. And that number more than quadrupled. It went up into the hundreds upon hundreds, maybe even thousands if I'm not incorrect. I don't know. I didn't pull the numbers for this particular episode. I got fact checked on that because the numbers that were posted on the thing that I shared were actually not as bad as the actual numbers. So it got fact checked as misleading or misinformation. But then if you actually open up the article and looked at the misinformation from this picture that I'd posted, and you look at the actual numbers that they state, the numbers in the picture were not as bad as the real numbers. It's like, this is your fact check? Are you fucking insane? You're fact checking me to tell me that this is misinformation, but then when I actually pull up the article, it's misinformation because the numbers are actually on the picture are not as bad as the real life numbers. Like, this is the level of psychosis that we're living with right now in this whole COVID mania bullshit. There's a 100% chance this video is getting taken down from YouTube. So head over to Rumble and check it out there. Like, holy fucking shit. So across the civilized world, I mean, New Zealand, Israel, everywhere that they have really pushed these vaccines, you're seeing high rates of excess mortality in the 20s and 30-year-olds. So that's pretty fucking scary. Let's see. Got some other stuff. This is one of my favorite ones. And see, YouTube, you owe me a whole bunch of videos back because of all of this stuff, but you're never going to give them to me. In fact, you're going to take this one down, even though I'm just sharing stuff that's coming straight from like actual news sources. Johns Hopkins Institute study reveals COVID-19 lockdowns had little to no effect on mortality rate. But if you read through this, it goes on to explain that there was actually a significant effect on the economic impact that this had. The lockdowns across the U.S. and Europe reduced COVID-19 mortality by 0.2% on average, they project. Maybe. It's not 100% on the math on that. It might not have even been that good. But on average, about a 0.2% reduction in COVID mortality based on the lockdowns. However, if you go on and I'll post these articles for anybody who wants to look at them. The closing of all these businesses and stuff like that actually had a huge economic impact and are a major part of the reason why we're currently seeing out of control inflation. We're currently seeing huge supply chain issues and just like complete supply chain breakages in many instances. It's also why we're seeing the unemployment rates that, even though they keep like the U.S. government and the Obama. I've made that Freudian slip a couple times. The Biden administration have touted like all of this job creation, but all of these jobs that are being created, they're not actual new jobs being created. They're jobs that are returning to the marketplace that had previously been destroyed or removed, I guess would be the best way to put it. Like, it's not that these jobs are being created, it's that these are jobs that are being brought back, and unemployment rate hasn't changed. When you dig down into the actual statistics around the unemployment rate, a lot of people see, this is the problem that I've always had with the way they calculate the unemployment rate is anyone who's not actively seeking employment and has just determined that they're not going to get a job and they're going to just be a government leech, they don't get counted in the unemployment rate. How does that work? Well, because it makes their numbers look better, obviously. If you just don't count the people who don't want to work, then that makes it look like everybody has a job. Never mind that a lot of people have chosen to simply not have jobs and live off of a government paycheck. So anyway, when you look at these unemployment rates, at the increase in the number of people who have dropped out of the job market and aren't looking for jobs, in the wake of COVID, obviously, the unemployment rates are not improving, and all of this job creation is not actually job creation, and like it's a way that they fudge numbers to kind of make a point that's not real, I guess would be the best way to look at or to explain that. Man, it's just like, let's see. There was also a study that showed that, and see, I don't have the statistics on that one, so this will definitely get taken down because, well, even if it's been proven in the past because I know I've talked about it before. I had a video where I went through a article or a case study that was done by Dr. Fauci and another doctor that explained how N95 masks and surgical masks and all those stuff, they're ineffective outside of a sterilized surgical room setting. So they're not going to work against COVID. Well, all I did was read this research study that Dr. Fauci had participated in and was one of the co-authors of. And that video got removed. And when I appealed it to YouTube, I sent them a link to the article or the research study and was like, hey, look, this is like, I didn't give false information. I didn't give misinformation. Like, I literally just read from this article. Well, within 2 weeks, that article didn't exist anymore. It's error 404 or error 404, like page not found. It ceased to exist, and I got a 7-day suspension on my YouTube account. Not saying I'm the result of that, or I'm the reason that article stopped existing. I'm sure a lot of other people had similar things happen, but there have also been other studies and stuff that have come out over the last 6 to 8 months that have gone into pretty high level of detail and depth on how masking did not actually accomplish anything in the COVID pandemic and in the wake of that. So, like, all of this stuff is, and none of this is like mainstream. Like, and the really big problem is they will say all of this stuff. They will tell you all of this stuff. They will give you all of these numbers and explain why these vaccines aren't working, why Paxlovid isn't working, why masks don't work, why the lockdowns were a complete failure. Like, they'll go into great detail to explain all of these things. But then they always have to put the little tag in there. You should do whatever your government says. If they say to lock down, you should lock down. If they say to wear a mask, you should wear a mask. You should definitely be getting vaccinated. And even after you've gotten vaccinated, when you get COVID, because you're going to get COVID because the vaccine is not going to prevent you from getting COVID, then you should go get the Paxlovid and do all of the things that you're being told, because Big Pharma said so. And at the end of the day, we have to bow to our God, Pfizer and Moderna. I got in a kind of a debate back and forth on Twitter with a nurse about. She said that that people don't trust medical professionals, and I said, when you've sold your soul to Big Pharma and whatever the prescribed narrative is, obviously people are going to stop trusting you. Like, that's kind of the reality of it. Like, you've shown you don't have any principles, you don't have any values, you only care about whatever puts money in your pocket, which, I mean, I get it. We're all about the almighty dollar at the end of the day, one way or the other, but it's, how far are you willing to go for that dollar? When that's the industry that you work in, like, obviously people tend to lose faith in that. And so then she said something about, maybe you should stop reading the conspiracy theories and blah, blah, blah about the vaccine and COVID and yada, yada, yada. It's like, I didn't say anything about the vaccine. I didn't say anything about COVID. I said the medical industry as a whole sold out to Big Pharma. If you look at the industry, this has been happening for 20 years or more. Like, and then all of that stuff comes out about how the chemical imbalance and all of that stuff is complete bullshit. That it's not actually a chemical imbalance that causes depression. It's all just that's an excuse to put people on medication. So then you're putting people on this medication that's not actually treating their depression. In fact, in most cases, if you look at all the side effects and the stuff that this depression medicine does, it makes your depression worse. It makes you suicidal. It makes you have all these other horrible side effects. And then not only that, but then you become chemically dependent on this stuff, because if you're not taking it every day, like you've been prescribed by your Big Pharma sellout doctor, then you start to have mood swings and you start to have even greater depression. Not because of a chemical imbalance that was naturally occurring, but because of the chemical imbalance that has been created by the antidepressants that they put you on. So now you're even more fucked up. Now you can't get off of this stuff. Now you're stuck forever. And then these people become suicidal. They become mentally disturbed. They become homicidal. They become all kinds of other things. And it's, instead of treating the problem in a reasonable, rational way, and like, this is going to sound like an oversimplification, but like suggesting that people do things that are, life affirming. Get out and exercise, change your diet, change your habits, change the people that you're around. Like, find ways to be more engaged in your life and the things that are going on around you, instead of just becoming reliant on some drug to numb you to the world. Like, it's fucking insane. So, like, you see the studies that are coming out that are saying that all of these antidepressants aren't actually doing anything. No shit. That it's not a chemical imbalance like they originally said it was. No shit. The whole thing was just the medical industry selling out to Big Pharma because that's the stuff that was being pushed. You push these drugs, we give you money, you get to be rich. There it is. That's why anytime you go to the doctor these days, it's all they want to do. What is it? I think on average, a doctor spends 6 minutes with a patient, and usually their solution to whatever your problem is to give you drugs. Like, whenever I was mentioning all of this, the person who I was having the back and forth with said, "Well, then just don't go to the doctor or take any medicine for anything ever." It's like, I don't. The only times I go to the doctor are when my wife forces me to. And even then, I don't do anything. Like, I go just for them to basically for them to weigh me and tell me what they think is wrong with me, which usually I already knew. And then I go about my life as usual. I don't take anything. I don't do anything. I go to the doctor so that my wife will leave me the hell alone. That's really it. I mean, I had a broken ankle a few years ago, and I had a walking boot that I was going to wear anyway. So they put me in a walking boot and told me to stay off of it. And a couple weeks later, when it felt better, I went back to playing basketball. I know what's wrong with me. I know my body. I don't need to spend a lot of time at a doctor. This thing that exists in modern society where you just go to the doctor for everything all the time it's insane to me. Like my ex wants to take the kids to the doctor every time one of them has a cough or the sniffles. It's like they got allergies. It's changing seasons. They're kids. They get sick. They run into shit. They hurt themselves. They fall off of stuff. They're kids. Let them be kids. They'll toughen up or they'll die. I don't think they're going to die. Nothing that they've had, like nothing that she takes them to the doctor for warrants going to the doctor. They're fine every single time. It's always this giant nothing burger. Get outside. Get some fucking sunshine. Go for a run. Pick up heavy shit and walk around with it. Do things that are life affirming. Play basketball. Fight with somebody. I don't know. Wrestle with a goat. That's kind of fun. Chase cats. Do things that, get you active. Make you feel things. Make you sweat. Go a lot further than spending all your time in a doctor's office around sick people where they tell you to take medicine that's probably not going to fix the thing that's wrong with you, and on top of it is going to give you half a dozen other things that are now wrong with you. Quit going to the fucking doctor. Call up Dr. Justin, and I'll tell you what the solution is. You know what the solution is? Drink a big-ass bottle of bourbon, eat a whole bag of chips with salsa, go run 5 miles, and wrestle with a goat. That'll cure all your ills. That'll be it for this episode that you will definitely not be able to see on YouTube unless you checked it out immediately. In fact, I bet they don't even let it publish. I bet you it gets taken down in the pre-publishing. Oh, we'll see how that goes, though. In the meantime, I hope everybody has a great rest of your week. I will be back on Monday with a brand new episode. Maybe if you're lucky. We'll see how the rest of this week goes. And anyway, I hope you have a great one. I'll catch you later.